How do we go about picking a college? How do we go about deciding where to go? How do we figure out what we want to do, what we want to major in? Before you decide on any of those items at all, there's some other important steps that you need to make sure you've already addressed. The number one thing is graduating. So, this is what you need to do. Does everybody know what the graduation requirements are? I hope so. Just very, very quickly, we're going to go over and review what the bare minimum requirements are for anyone in New York State in order to graduate and get a New York State Regents diploma. You need at least 8 English credits, and that does not include media credits. So if you're looking at a transcript and it shows that there are media credits on there, and so you have 10 English credits and you think, oh, well, I already have 2 more than I need, that's not the case. So we're going to just go quickly. You're going to need an English course every single semester up until you graduate. You're going to also need 8 social studies credits every single semester until you graduate. However, within those social studies credits, you're going to need 4 global credits, 2 U.S. history credits, and an economics and government credit. You also need 6 math credits. Now, let's keep in mind, I'm talking about the minimum credits you need in order to graduate. We're going to talk about what you need in order to get into a good 4-year college right after this. You also need 6 science credits. Again, if you're thinking about a health major, you're going to want more than that. You need a minimum of 2 language credits, but a minimum of 4 to 6 if you want to get into a decent 4-year college. You're going to need 7 electives, and you're going to need a term of gym for 7 semesters and then 1 health credit. And yes, fine arts credits are required in order to graduate, a minimum of 2. It could be 1 English credit, I'm sorry, okay. It could be 1 music credit and 1 art credit, 2 art credits, 2 music credits, but those are not considered electives until after the minimum 2 have been fulfilled. So, to review, you need 44.2 credits in order to graduate. Many of our students graduate with way more credits than 44. Many graduate with 50 and above because they have a lot of different elective credits, for instance, culinary or media or law. So, just because you may have 44 credits coming into senior year, that doesn't mean that you already have enough credits to graduate. In addition to the credits, you also need 5 Regents exams in order to graduate. And that's, again, anywhere you're going to go in New York State. What are the 5 Regencies? The minimum 5 Regencies that you need in order to graduate with a Regents diploma. And that's the only diploma you can graduate with now. That's the Algebra Regents, the English Regents, the U.S. History Regents, the Global Regents, and a Science Regents. Now, does that mean that if you've already passed the Living Environment Regents and now you're taking the Chemistry Regents, oh, I don't need to pass that, I don't need to take that? No, that does not. You need to take the Regents for whatever subject that you're in, geometry, earth science, chemistry, and pass it, even if it's not necessary, because that's the final exam for that course. However, if you are looking at an advanced Regents diploma, and there are many colleges that are going to require as their admission requirements an advanced Regents diploma just to look at your application, well then, in addition to the 5, you also need the entire math sequence. So not just the algebra, you also need geometry and the trigonometry Regents, and you need 2 science Regents, and you'll have to take and pass the LOTE exam, which is in lieu of the language Regents. So that would mean you need a minimum of 6 language credits in order to get an advanced Regents diploma. So how does that translate over to getting into a good 4-year college? What did you mean, Ms. Pinto, when you said at the beginning there's a difference between graduating from high school and what you really need to get into a good four-year college? Those are the bare minimum requirements in order to graduate, and anybody that's going to graduate from high school need to get those. But getting into a four-year college, what are they looking at? They're going to look at your language credits. They're going to want to see a minimum of 2 years, mostly 3 years. They're going to want to see, if you want to become an engineer, they're going to want to see 4 years of science and 4 years of math. And by the way, you athletes, well, you may want to go on to the NCAA clearinghouse.org website, because there's a lot of different requirements for a Division I and Division II school. And they are mandated, and if you have not fulfilled them, you will not get cleared to play athletics in your Division I or Division II school. So I'm asking that you go onto that website and look at the scale and what the core requirements are for the NCAA. And don't think that you're not going to be able to get them here at Truman, because that's what we're talking about right now. We're looking at what you need in order to get into a good four-year college. So let's go on. If, for instance, you want to major in any of the health professions, doctor, nurse, you want to be a sonogram operator, whatever it is that you want to do, then in the health professions, you need to minimum take chemistry, and they're certainly going to be looking to see if you pass the chemistry Regents. You may want to even go on to physics. Anyone who hasn't taken high school chemistry is not going to be able to handle a college level chemistry course, and they're certainly going to be looking at that, and they know that you need to take that in order to major in any of the health professions, and so that's certainly a requirement for you. That's something that you want to look at, you want to sit down with your counselor, and you want to go over with and make sure that you have included in your program. Whether you're a junior or a senior or even a sophomore, you want to be prepared. Like I said, as far as engineering is concerned, you're going to want to look at the math and the sciences. For somebody, just the same way somebody who's going into the culinary field is going to want to take all of those culinary courses. Well, then you need to be prepared the same way, only academically. What's the other tipping point? They are going to look very, very carefully at your senior year classes. I know a lot of students think that by the time they get to senior year, they can kind of sit back and relax, and that's the way it should be in senior year. Only unfortunately, that's not the way it's going to be. And that's not the way it's been for a very, very long time now. You're unfortunately misinformed. Senior year is the time to ramp it up, not tune it down. So, what do you need to do in senior year? In senior year, you want to take your advanced placement classes. So if a teacher has recommended you for an advanced placement class, I know it's going to be a lot of hard work, but that's exactly what your college is going to be looking at. You're going to have to list all of your senior year courses on your college application. And they're going to be looking very carefully for that little AP before your course. And that's going to mean something to them. Think about it. What happens when a college receives thousands upon thousands of applications and every one of them has an 85.4 GPA? What's going to be the difference for you? What is going to be the difference? You have to make that difference. And by the way, when they look at your transcript, they are not going to know that math was first period and that's the reason why you got a 55 or maybe a 40 in it. They're not going to know that you couldn't get out of bed and get to class on time. They're only going to think, gee, they couldn't handle that work, could they? They're not going to know it was a cut grade and you couldn't get here. So you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that that story that you tell about you in numbers is going to be the accurate story. So if you're really good in math, but you're lousy at getting it to first period, well, you want to make sure that you address that. Okay. So what else? What else do we have to do? What else are they going to be looking at? What's the colleges going to be looking at when they're looking at your transcript? Well, the first number they're going to look at is your GPA. I can already hear it in my head. Miss Pinto, I'm going to really ramp it up in senior year. I'm really smart, you know, and I can get good grades, and I'm going to do that in senior year. Well, I hate to say it, but, and give you the bad news one more time, it's too late. Not to say that the colleges are not going to be looking at your mid-year report. They definitely are. So, yes, you do need to get really good grades in senior year because many times colleges will ask for your mid-year report in January or February. I've even had students, colleges, ask me for a student's first marking period report card in the spring because they're deciding whether or not they need to accept that student, and that may be just what they need to get you into the school if you're getting good grades. So you don't want to fail anything in senior year ever, and you want to get the very best grades that you can get. However, getting your GPA and your rank up, that's not going to happen, not your overall GPA. Your overall GPA is calculated at the end of junior year, just before actually you get into senior year. So if you have to go to summer school, which I'm sure nobody that's watching this video is going to have to go to summer school, but just in case, it will get calculated in September. So that's what you're going to need to do. You're going to need to have the very highest grades you can get. I'm sure everybody watching this knows how to do basic math, and you can calculate an average. You're going to add everything up. I know that it's not shown on Pupil Path, and you want to make sure that that is at least an 80 and above for any decent four-year college. Anything below that, and you are very iffy. I have to tell you that. Anything below a 75, again, you know, there may be some four-year colleges that will accept you, but they're getting much fewer. So, to sum it up, what are we looking for? We're looking for the most rigorous curriculum that you could possibly take for your whole 4 years, and you're not going to take it easy in senior year. You're going to ramp it up. You're going to get the best grades you possibly can. You're not going to cruise by. Think about it. Anybody that passes, you can pass all of your classes with a 65. What's your GPA at the end? A 65. No, you want an 80 and above. You're going to pass all of the Regencies that you take, and an 80 or above in the algebra, and a 75 or above in the English. And why is that? Now we're going to get into what the colleges are really looking for and how do you pick colleges. The CUNY schools especially, and the SUNY, that's the City University of New York schools and the State University of New York schools, are looking very carefully at the Regencies and your grades on those Regents exams, and they're looking at the courses that you've taken. They're looking for the sequence. They want to make sure that you've had algebra, geometry, and trigonometry. They're going to look at the science courses you're taking, especially if you've indicated that you're going into a health profession. No, it's not going to be as important if you're going to be a lawyer. No, they may be looking at your English and your social studies grades then. So they're going to be looking at your transcript as a whole. So yes, all of those items are important. How do you pick? How do you decide? How do you decide if you have no idea at all what you want to do? I know it's very, very, very difficult, and especially if you haven't picked a career choice and they ask you on that application what you want to do. What can you do? One of the websites that you can go to is bls.gov. That's the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's the government website. You're going to scroll down. You're going to go on to the Occupational Outlook Handbook. You're going to click on it, and it's going to give you the description of every single job in the United States. It's going to tell you what a typical day's work is. It's going to tell you how much you can make, what the job prospects are, and what education you need. So if you have no idea what you want to do, but you have an idea of what you may not want to do, if you know you don't want to be sitting in front of a desk with a suit and tie on all day, and so you want to do something outdoorsy, well, pick a letter. It's in alphabetical order, and you can go on to any job in that letter category and look and see what you may interest you. Number one. Number two, how else do I pick a college? Well, think about it. Do you want to stay close? Do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend that you don't want to leave? Do you have a job? Do you have family responsibilities and so you want to stay? Do you want to get away from all of that and you want to go as far away as you possibly can? Well, that's some of the criteria that you're going to use in order to decide on whether you want to stay close to home or you want to pick a college that's outside of the New York City area. So, how do you do that? Do I want to be close, far? Do I want to be far, far? In other words, do I want to have to take a plane to come home for the holidays? Do I want to be able to come home on a weekend if I feel like it? So you're going to look in a certain area. For instance, on the SUNY booklet that we have in the college office, on the very back page, there's a map of New York State, and you can go within a radius of 2 hours of New York State and have New York City and have lots and lots of colleges to choose from, or you can go as close to Canada as you possibly can and still be within New York State and far enough away so that you can forget all about everybody that's here in New York City if you really want to do that. So that's one of the criteria. But remember, when you're picking those areas, there's something else that you need to decide. If you're going to be there for 4 years, well, do you like to be able to get pizza at 2 o'clock in the morning? Well, you want to make sure that your campus has that capability. Is there someplace on campus that's open all the time or right outside of campus? Especially if you're in the boondocks. If you like cows, then, well, maybe you want to go to some of the rural areas in New York State or outside of New York State, out west or even down south. You may want to be in a country setting. That's fine. However, just keep in mind that if you like rolling out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and going and getting a pizza, make sure if that's available if you want that. So those are the kinds of things that you're going to want to do and consider. What's something else that you may consider? Well, would you rent an apartment that you never saw? No. Well, then you need to go visit the campus. If you're going to sleep away, if you're thinking about dorming in a school, well, then you want to go and visit that. And I know it's not so easy sometimes. Some schools will give a travel voucher if you can show need and the desire to really go to the school. You can contact that school and request one. That's not always the case, but you can. But for instance, maybe a group of friends of yours all want to look at colleges in the Albany area, and maybe you can get your parents to take you and a group of friends up for a weekend, and you can go visit maybe several colleges. That's possible. Truman has trips. Most of the trips that we have are in a certain radius. You can always check with your counselor. So go visit a college. What are some of the other things that you're going to look? Well, obviously you're going to look and see if they have the major that you want. You're going to look and see if they have the sport that you want to play. You're going to look at the size of the college. You know, do you like a very small setting? You want to be in a classroom where they're going to teach you, you know, maybe only have 20 students in a class, or you want to be lost in the crowd. You don't want somebody to pick on you. You want to be in a large lecture hall. Well, then maybe in that case, a large university that has lectures in the first 2 years of your classes is something that you want to think of. You're also going to want to look at tuition. And we're going to get to financial aid very soon.
So you've got your list of schools, okay? You've figured out where you want to apply to. What do you need to do next? You need to go on to the website and you need to check the application components, okay? Some schools require just your transcript and your SAT scores, and some schools will ask you for some letters of recommendation and an essay. So you need to figure out what you need so we can send it all together, okay? So again, how do I figure out what I need? We go onto the website and we check out what we need. The time to ask a teacher or counselor for a letter of recommendation is not the day it's due. Okay, so you want to give people a little bit of time to write something nice about you, because if they are rushed, they will write Benny is a nice kid. Okay, and that's not going to get you into college. All right, deadlines. This is my very favorite word, deadlines. When I see you in the hallway, I'm going to be screaming deadlines at you. In Truman, we have flexible deadlines. That means that if you have a paper due in Miss Smith's class on a Friday and you stroll in Friday and you tell her you ran out of ink or you had no more paper or whatever, she will probably let you hand it in on Monday. That is not the case in the real world. In the real world, deadlines are for serious, okay? If you do not have something in on a deadline, okay, the college is not legally obliged to look at it, which means that if something is due on January 15th and you roll into my office on January 25th and you say, Mr. O'Bear, will you send this? I will never tell you no. I will look at the deadline. I will point to the deadline. I will make sure that you are aware of the deadline, and then I will mail it for you. However, I will let you know that the colleges are not legally bound to look at anything that comes in after a deadline, which means that they will open up your application, they will take out your check or money order and cash it, and they will throw the rest of your application in the garbage. Let me repeat that. They are not legally bound to look at anything that comes in after a deadline. If your application comes in late, okay, whoever is opening it will open it up, will take out your check or money order and cash it and throw the rest of it in the garbage. And you will never know whether or not you didn't get accepted because you didn't make it or it was late. Okay, so don't send anything in late, please. Deadlines. So how do we stick to deadlines? You get yourself a calendar or a date book and a highlighter. You go over to Staples and you get some 10-cent pocket folders, okay? One for every school you've applied to. You're going to write the name of the school on the pocket folder, all right? And anything pertaining to that school goes into the pocket folder, and you keep everything neatly so everything is at your fingertips, all right? That way you know what is what, all right? And you could even arrange them in order on your desk of when they're due, all right? So everything is nice and neat and orderly. You know when everything is due. Nothing is going to be late. What do you do next with your application? Do you print out a copy of your transcript yourself and send it out? Nope. You come to Miss Pinto or me or Miss Gaskins or Miss Moyer. We are the last stop. Your guidance counselor is the last stop on the application treadmill, okay? You have finished everything. You've got all the pieces together. You bring it to us with an envelope addressed to where we are sending it, okay? And we will put in your official documents and mail it out for you. All right? So if there's, let me repeat that one more time. If you do not come to your counselor, okay, your application is not complete. That means your official transcript is never going to get to the school if we don't know that it needs, that you've applied there, okay? So if your transcript doesn't ever get to the school, your application will be in limbo forever. Okay, and they will be accepting other people while yours is growing dust. All right, so you come to your counselor, you bring your envelope, you bring your letter of recommendation, you bring your essay, you bring your check or money order. We never put cash in the mail ever. Okay, what happens when you put cash in the mail? Whoever opens the envelope says, "Happy birthday to me." The cash goes into their pocket and they say, "Look at this, they didn't pay me." Okay, and then your application is deaded. All right, so let's take care of everything in a timely fashion, get all the pieces together, bring them to your counselor, and we will send them out for you. Every four-year school will require an SAT. Some of the more important private schools will require SAT 2 subject tests. So if you're applying to NYU or Fordham, in addition to the SAT reasoning test, you'll have to take 2 subject tests. So you want to make sure you have all the pieces together before you have completed your application. ACT. You can take an ACT in lieu of the SAT or in addition to. The SAT is reading, writing, and math. The ACT is more subject-oriented, so a lot of times our students do better on that test. It's more of what you're learning in class. On every application, they're going to ask you for your high school code. Some may call it a CEEB code. Truman High School's CEEB code is 330531. You want to make sure to put that on all your applications for SAT, ACT, and colleges. That way they can access the school's information. some students may be eligible for a fee waiver. You have to be able to prove that you are in financial need. How you go about that is to bring your counselor either your parents' 1040 form, if they work and file taxes. If you're on public assistance, we need to see the budget letter. If you live with grandma and she's on Social Security, we need a letter from Social Security. Once we have ascertained that you are definitely in financial need, we can give you a fee waiver. Seniors, if you are interested in a CUNY fee waiver, they only send us 40 and they are going fast. So seniors who need a CUNY fee waiver need to complete the CUNY application ASAP and then bring it to us along with the documentation for financial need, and we'll be able to give it to you. Once we run out of CUNY fee waivers, there are no more. There is no one to call. We don't have the red bat phone. That is it. Once they're gone, they're gone. So if you think you're eligible for a CUNY fee waiver, you need to get in ASAP. If you have applied to SUNY, the State University of New York colleges, the four-year SUNYs, once you've submitted the application, you aren't finished. You have to go back in and fill out the supplemental. Okay? The supplemental will require that you upload your essay, and they will usually ask you to send in 2 letters of recommendation from a teacher. If you have letters of recommendation and an essay, bring them to the college office. We'll put them on file, and we can send them to CUNY as well. Okay? The more information a school has about you, the better your chances for getting in are. The more you do, the better you look. So even though a college may tell you that the essay is optional, you should always send it, because they're going to have 10,000 applications on their desk without 10,000 essays, and there's your essay, and that, we need things to tip the scale in your favor. So if you've written an essay, bring it in. If you haven't, just write one. You can use something like a person who has inspired me, or an event that has changed me, something like that. And your counselor, your English teacher will look it over and make sure it's in good shape. So juniors, this is what you need to concentrate on this year, okay? Before you leave for summer break, we want you to have sat for an SAT or an ACT. You could take an SAT or an ACT in January, in March, in May. And if you're interested in applying to an NYU, you want to take subject tests in June. Okay? You also want to take this time to ask your teachers for letters of recommendation, okay? You've had the teacher for at least 4 or 5 months. The teachers know you. Okay, sometimes teachers leave, so you want to get the letters of recommendation while the teachers remember you. When you come into senior year and it's October and you need a letter of recommendation, some teachers won't have known you long enough to write a good one. So we want to make sure that you get the best recommendation you can. So you can start asking your teachers now for letters, and they can either drop them in Miss Pinto or my mailbox in room 258, or they can give them to you in a sealed envelope, and you can bring them to us in room 425 F and G.
All right, so the question that everybody always asks first is financial aid. How am I going to pay for college, Ms. Pinto? What is financial aid? When do I need to apply for financial aid? Can I start applying for financial aid now? Well, it depends on when now is. You don't start applying for financial aid until after you've already applied for your colleges. The very last question on the FAFSA application is, where do you want us to send all of this financial information? And then you're going to list the colleges where you've applied. So if you haven't even begun to apply to colleges yet, well, then you're not going to be thinking about financial aid just now, although you can. Even as a junior, you can go onto the FAFSA website. And remember, it's fafsa.gov, fafsa.gov, not fafsa.com. Fafsa.com is a scam website. It will charge you a $70 fee, and the FAFSA application is a free application. So what is financial aid exactly? Well, beware, okay? Be aware that colleges consider loans financial aid. So you may want to get your parents to listen to this segment. Financial aid comes directly from the college. FAFSA is the government agency that collects the information and then disseminates it or gives it out to all of the colleges that you've applied to. So the college that you've applied to is going to get your financial aid application, your FAFSA. They're going to look at your need, and then they're going to decide how much money that particular college they have to give you. Some will be based on merit. That's why we were talking about how high your GPA is, and it's also going to be based on your College Board examination scores, whether you took the ACT or the SAT. They're going to look at those scores and give you merit-based scholarships directly from the college, or they're going to give you need-based, or maybe both. You may be in the category where you will be able to get both. So you're going to be very particular about what you put on those FAFSA applications. And remember that they are going to verify the information. So you cannot lie. You cannot put information that isn't accurate. And I know that there are sometimes parents are a little bit reluctant to give personal information out on the computer, but unfortunately, all of the information for FAFSA now goes online. So you will be filling out your information on a very secure website. We usually do have a workshop where parents and students can come and review and ask questions. Unfortunately, I cannot address all of the possible scenarios here on this video, but there are worksheets, there are hotlines, and there's the workshops. And of course, there's college advisory with Mrs. Jobert and myself. And you can probably ask any teacher or counselor who's been through the system. Most of us have experienced it and can answer questions. And that goes for college information as well. Ask a teacher where they went to college, and they'll probably have lots of information and stories to give you. So let's review. What are we going to do for financial aid? We're going to apply for FAFSA after January 1st. Why after January 1st? Well, after January 1st is when your information for that particular year is going to be ready. So for instance, this is 2012. Well, in 2013, they're going to be looking for your financial information for 2012, which obviously isn't going to be ready until after January 1st. Now, they're going to ask you to file your income taxes by February. And you're going to ask your parents if they've waited before until April 15th, which they have until that deadline by law. Once you start going into college, well, you want to do it a lot sooner than that. So as soon as they have that information from their workplaces, they want to make that appointment to have their taxes done. And a lot of income tax places now, H&R Block, a lot of them will do your FAFSA on the spot if you ask. So you may want to pass that information on to your parents. Like I said, we will have workshops if your parents are doing it on their own, or if you're going to file your own FAFSA. Make sure that once you have a PIN number, and you will need a PIN number as well as your parent in order to electronically sign the FAFSA application. Once you have that information, you want to file it in a safe place. Remember what Mrs. Jobert said about folders? Well, you want a special financial aid folder. And you're going to keep that folder for 4 years. Every year you're going to have to go back into your FAFSA as long as you're in college, or even maybe even for your master's, and you're going to apply for financial aid, and you're going to be reusing that same PIN number as well as your parents. While you're still in college, you will probably still be dependent on your parents' financial information. Does that mean they're responsible for paying for your college tuition? No, it doesn't. Their income is going to be used to determine your financial aid, but it does not mean that they are in any way responsible. If you have any other financial aid questions, please come and see us in the college office. Please come to the workshops, and please go online to finaid.com. So that was a lot of information. I know that may be a long video to watch. I hope you enjoyed it, but let's recap.
But they have a rewind button. They can always go back and look at it again.
That's exactly right. If there's any other questions that you have, you know you can ask us. But if there's any information that you need clarified, you can go back and watch the video. That's pretty cool. Did we forget anything?
Gee, I don't know. How about visiting?
Oh.
Did we talk about visiting? I have a really sad personal tale of woe to tell. When I was 8, my parents took the whole family up to college way upstate. And as an 8-year-old from Co-op City in the Bronx, it was really cool. There were trees and deer and a waterfall, and I was beyond happy to run around through this place all day. And so when I came to senior year, I always had this college in the back of my mind. I wanted to go to this college because it was so pretty. But seeing something as an 8-year-old and seeing something as an 18-year-old are two different stories. So here I am, used to taking the train at night, going downtown, going to the movies, going to hang out, and I get to the middle of nowhere. I get out of my dad's car with my little suitcases, and there's me, and there's a waterfall, and there are cornfields all around. Cornfields and nothing else. No pizza places, no cars, no town, no nothing, okay? So big mistake was not seeing it before I applied as a senior. So I get out with my little suitcases and I hear the wind through the corn. And I love corn on a plate. Don't like walking through it, okay? How would I have known something like that? What could I have done differently, Miss Pinto?
I can't believe you never went up and visited the college before you actually applied.
That's why it's really important to go see something.
Well, there's only one other point that I want to make, okay, and that's apply to a bunch of colleges. You should have a list of at least 6 to 10 colleges. And a lot of seniors get confused by that. And they say, well, you know, I don't know if I'm going to get accepted to this college, and I don't know if I want to go to this college. Well, remember that an application is just that. It's an application. It's not a contract. So you don't have to decide where you're going to go until April of your senior year. And at that point, if you filed your financial aid application in a timely manner, by that time, well, that might help you decide what college you want to go to. You're going to get your acceptance letters and you're going to get your financial aid packets. You're going to look at how much money it's going to cost you to go to this school or that school, and that's going to help you make that decision. So yes, you're going to apply to as many colleges as you'd like to think about going to, but please visit first and visit us.